I want to turn to quite an explosive column you've written in The Australian on the Labor Party here in Australia, where you say that the party settled into quite a dangerous complacency under Anthony Albanese. You've hit out at their front bench team, describing them as B-graders left over from the Rudd-Gillard years. Look, Albo is now 17 months into this job, and the polls are diabolical for him. And a lot of that is because the public is content with how the Morrison government is handling this pandemic. Why, though, do you think, Troy, that Labor has been so defective under Albanese's leadership?
Well, the point of that column, Sharri, was also not only to express my own view, but to reveal the real views inside Labor's front bench and on its back bench and in the broader Labor Party and union movement. And the bottom line is that most of them don't think that Anthony Albanese is cutting it. I mean, Scott Morrison has a commanding lead as preferred Prime Minister. Labor is well behind in the polls. It's flatlining in the mid to low 30s. It's gone nowhere since the last election. And there's been no policy rejuvenation inside Labor. Very little policy changes, very little personnel changes. We are really looking at the B or C grade of the Rudd-Gillard years. I mean, there hasn't been an opportunity for too many younger members of Parliament to come through the ranks to sort of show what they can offer. There's been no structural reform to the Labor Party, yet there's been Chinese infiltration scandals, branch stacking scandals. So none of these things have been addressed. The Democrats in the US and the British Labor Party held their annual conferences this year, but the Labor Party apparently couldn't have a virtual conference, a discussion like you and I are having now with your viewers. So,
yeah.
Look,
Troy,
it's not looking good.
We're running out of time, and I just want to ask about one other thing you wrote before we have to go, which is that you said that Anthony's leadership is circling the drain. Do you think there could be a return to Shorten, or do you think possibly the party might look to someone like Jim Chalmers, or has he now been damaged or too aligned with Anthony Albanese?
I don't think there is a clear leadership alternative to Anthony Albanese right now. There's a number of contenders. The front rank would be Tanya Plibersek, Jim Chalmers, and Chris Bowen. Bill Shorten will not return to the leadership next, but he hasn't given it up in the future. I think the Labor Party will just run down the clock to the next election. I don't think anybody wants to be seen to be destabilising the leadership, going back to the trauma of the Rudd-Gillard years. I think they're just going to keep their powder dry, let Labor go to the next election, and by all signs it's going to lose and lose convincingly, and then they'll move to a new leader, and it'll be those names I've mentioned or possibly somebody else. So I don't think Anthony Albanese is in danger, but there is a complacency within the Labor Party about not being able to land a glove on Scott Morrison. And as you say, it's partly because he's done a good job in handling the coronavirus pandemic. But there is deep malaise within Labor.
Yeah, well, there is, and it's amazing when you think that, we're potentially a year or more out from the next federal election, and Labor MPs, even on the front bench, seem to have given up. They just so expect the Morrison government to win. So there you go. And I should say, Troy, that you are an expert in this area. You're a Labor historian among all of your other areas of expertise. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sharri. Good to be on.